Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Dave's Delights. And what a delightful fall day it is today. As we're filming, it's heading towards the back half of September, and I woke up and it was 47 degrees this morning. So you know what that feels like? That feels like a great day for a stew. So we're going to get to play with some of my other little gadgets that I have around the kitchen today, which is nice because for all of you at home who might not want to be constantly running around and staring at their pot because you got other things to do, we're going to be using a slow cooker today, which will, you can set this and you forget this, and when you come home from work, the house smells great and your food is ready to go. So this is going to make things a lot easier for all of you. What we're going to do today is we're going to make a beef and barley stew. Now, what you're going to start off with is 2 pounds of boneless chuck. Now, I get this as a pot roast, and I break it down myself. You could get stew meat if you wanted to. I just happen to like doing it myself. So I take it, and I take the whole thing down, and any parts that are like really just connected, just fat or cartilage, I'll kind of trim some of that out. But you still want to have some because you want that to render away and add some flavor to the meat. But you can see it's got good marbling, and I got it cut down into basically 1-inch cubes. But, give or take, it doesn't have to be exact. And then the first thing we're going to do is we're going to season these with salt and pepper. So I have a teaspoon of salt and a half teaspoon of pepper, and I'm going to spread it all over this stuff. And I will, as I continue over at the stove, I will add more as needed to make sure that I get at least some coverage over all of them. And that'll stir up as we go. And this is the pepper. It's a 1/4 teaspoon of that. Quite frankly, I'll end up using more, but I always start with a 1/4 teaspoon and see where I go from there. And you're just kind of working it around in the bowl. If you have a deeper bowl, you can really toss it. And then I take this over to the stove, and I'm going to sear it. So I'm going to brown it on all sides with my cast iron skillet. And we need 1 tablespoon of olive oil for that. Maybe 2. Depends on how. I have a very big pot here today, a very big pan. So I might need 1.5 tablespoons, but play it by eye. We're going to switch over to the workstation, and I will see you over there as soon as we're ready. Here we are at a hot stove with a hot pan, and we're going to add in our olive oil. And I think that will do it. And I'm going to put the meat all the way around. And again, as always, you don't want to crowd the plate. Don't crowd this pan at all. Give this meat room to cook. You can do it in batches because it's all going to go into the crock pot anyway. Now you want to pay attention because you want to have it at medium-high heat, and it does get a little bit sizzly. So maybe you don't want to do this shirtless. All right, that's about as full as I want to get that. And I'm just going to give you an idea because this is going to take a while, so we're going to do most of this off camera. But as you can see, that's already starting to brown. So then we'll put these over to the next side. Or some of them will have to flip and then go at angles. And what we're looking for is that nice brown, like getting some good Maillard reaction on it. I want that to be really seared well before we move it over for a slow cook. This will help keep our meat from being super dry at the end. This will hold some of that moisture in. Okay, I am going to finish up taking care of this, and we will get back to you when we're ready to put it all into the crock pot. Now that the meat is fully browned on all sides, we're going to start putting everything in the crock pot. Now I have the crock pot set to low, and mine happens to have a timer, so mine is set to 8 hours. Now anywhere between 6 and 8 hours will be fine. You just want the meat to be nice and tender, and all the vegetables will be tender, but believe me, that long in the crock pot, they will be. So what we got to do is we are going to add the meat to the pot. So here's your 2 pounds of brown meat and any juices that ended up from while it's sitting here on the pan. So that is in there. And then we're going to add in 2 cups of peeled carrot, or peeled carrots that have been cut into chunks. Now I call it like a chop, but I chopped it on a bias to make it a little bit more interesting. 2 cups of cherry tomatoes cut lengthways. Now my garden is heavily producing these, so I've got all different types. Then all the different colors will make it feel really nice and fall-like and fun. 1 yellow onion, chopped. And when I'm doing this for stews, I try to chop them a little bit bigger, so you can see those are not little pieces. Those are pretty big pieces. 3/4 cup of pearl barley. 2 cloves of garlic. I'm sorry, not 2 tablespoons of garlic. That's way more than 2 cloves. So this, I'm using pre-minced garlic because it's a stew. You can use fresh, you can use minced, no problem either way. And then I need 12 small baby potatoes. These ones I'm using are red. And what I'm doing is I'm quartering them. But I don't do this ahead of time because potatoes have a tendency to oxidize really quickly. So instead, I'm going to quarter these the single most dangerous way that you possibly could while we're talking. And I'm going to try to talk and not cut my fingers off at the same time. But what we're going to have to do once we get all these in is we're going to have to give everything a big stir before we start putting in liquids. And there's still a little bit more seasoning to do too. But as I said, I have a dozen of these potatoes. And if you're not practiced with a paring knife, maybe it's probably not a good idea to cut these things in your hand. And quite frankly, even if you are practiced, you're still taking a chance. But in this situation, I feel like this is a chance that I am willing to take. And they're coming pretty quick here. 5 more to go. And I'll tell you what, I am really looking forward to this stew come fall, because it's fall. Come this evening when temperature drops down into the low 50s again, and we're going to be able to spoon this out into what is my next surprise, which is what we're going to make for these are those bread bowls that you saw in my chowder episode. So we're going to make these bread bowls this time rather than just showing you them finished. Because this is going to be cooking all day, so I can pretty much set this and forget this. So we'll make bread, and then we're going to turn them into bread bowls, and that's what we're going to serve in, and it's just going to be wonderful. Last potato. Oh, and I left my parsley over there. So 2 tablespoons of chopped parsley, flat leaf. Although curly would be fine too. It really doesn't make a difference in flavor. And then I have a little bit extra here, I've got lots extra, but there's 2 tablespoons there in. And then I'm going to put extra on for garnish and when we're done. Now I also need 3 sprigs of thyme, which this one has got a whole bunch of prongs off of it, but it's 3 sprigs that are in, and 1 bay leaf. Now I'm going to get a spoon, or in this case a pusher, and I want to kind of move all this stuff around. Oh, and by the way, this is already getting hot, so I got to keep my hands away from the hot part. I would call this one hot pot. All right, that's all mixed in. It'll mix more later. And now I've got to put 6 cups of beef stock in. Now these potatoes are going to add some starch to the deal, which is going to help thicken this stew up, as will the barley. So we don't worry about the fact that it's really soupy right now. It's not going to stay that way. Let's give this a little bit more stir. On goes the lid. Off comes that little bit of parsley that's left there. I'm going to put my carry notches away because I don't need to lock this down right now. And that is now cooking and ready to go. And 5 to 6 hours from now, or possibly more, we'll be checking it. Whenever it's ready, and we will cut back to us making some bread in a little bit. Have a wonderful time until then. All right, here we are at the workstation, and I have used the recipe for It's Bread, which is, I will link below in the description since we've done bread before. And then I've split that bread into, in this case, 6 smaller balls, which are going to go into these cool little rattan basket molds for proofing that I happen to have. If you don't have that, any bowl that you have around is be perfect. And just put a tea towel on top of it. So I've just kind of, you can grease it if it's ceramic or metal, but because this is rattan, I just put a little flour in there. And I put this ball ended up being 300 grams. And that goes in, I'll put a cover on it just like this, and then they're going to sit until they've doubled. I will see you back at that point. Okay, it's been 40 minutes, and these are now ready for their second kneading. So you're going to take it out of the bowl. Actually, it's kind of a neat little pattern there. If I didn't need to knead it again, I could just put that out and make a really neat shaped bread. But in this case, I have to get all the air out of it and fold it up into a real tight ball using my hands. And then I'm putting it onto a piece of parchment paper on a baking sheet. I'm going to do one more here. Take the cover off. Take that. Flatten it down. And we're folding it up into a big tall ball. Okay, so I've got a 400-degree oven getting heated up right now. These are going to have to sit for 45 minutes, but I'm going to wash the top of them with an egg wash and then put some plastic wrap over the top so that they can rest for about 45 minutes and double again, and then they'll go in. So I will see you back when we're ready to put them in the oven. Now that I think about it, it probably wouldn't hurt for me to show you how to do this. So what we're going to do is I've got to take this bread, and I've put the fold underneath so that it's smooth on the top. And I'm going to take a paring knife. And I'm going to make a little X on every one of these. Just a little one. And I've got my wash here. And this wash is 1 egg, and I used heavy cream because I've got heavy cream in the house, but you can use milk or half and half. And I used 2 tablespoons of that. And I stirred it up and beat it real good until it was smooth. And then we're going to wash this over the top. And once that's done, I got one last thing to do. And this will be optional, this last thing here. Let me just get this last guy slathered. There we go. Everybody's looking covered. Yes. All right. So the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grind some salt, in this case pink Himalayan salt, on the tops, over the tops where it's wet here. You know, mostly just for the aesthetic pleasingness of it, but also it'll give a little bit of flavor. So these, I'm going to get plastic wrap, and I'm not going to make it tight. I'm just going to lay some plastic wrap over the top, and then this is going to sit for another 45 minutes, and then it's going to go into the oven at 400 degrees. See you back when we're putting it in the oven. Okay, we have a 400-degree oven ready to go. These have doubled in size, It's been another 45 minutes, and they came up, and they are ready to go into the oven. I gave them one quick brush once more with the egg wash, and now they go in. And again, so 400-degree oven, and they're going to be in for 30 minutes. After 30, we'll check, see how they look, and then as much time as they need to be nice brown and crusty on the top, and then they're done. I will see you when we get these back out of the oven. And here we go, fresh out of the oven. We have our six finished bread bowls. Now, you want to let these cool for at least 15 minutes before you open them. But if you've got longer than that, that's going to be just even better because it'll give the bread a chance to kind of firm up and finish doing what it's going to do. Well, when we're getting ready to serve, I'll cut one open and show you how to do all that. But I think these came out just amazingly well. And I was telling some of my friends while I was not filming that it's amazing and just how much fun it is being able to make bread. The house smells great now with having this bread cooked in the house. So even though you can buy this stuff at the store, you might want to just try to do it once in a while because it is a lot of fun and it makes the house smell great and makes everybody happy having fresh baked bread. And you get the pride of saying, hey, I made this myself. Anyhow, I will see you when we're ready to finish up with the stew. Before we finish up, I want to show you what this is going to look like when it's ready. So the pot's been going for 6.5, 7 hours now. And if you look, I've got good gravy in there. Between the potato and the barley and that little bit of bread that I put in, it is gravied up real nice. It steams up the lens really well too. And you can see it's very definitely soft and mushy and ready to go all the way through. That is a nice solid stew. So I just took out all of the thyme stems because those aren't nice to eat. And once I find it, I'll get rid of the bay leaf as well. But we're going to move this over to the island so I can do final preparation and serve. See you over there in just a second. Okay, here we are, ready to do our final presentation. So we have our bread bowl, and I'm going to take the lid off the bread bowl and set it aside for the moment. And I've got my stew here. I'm going to take a nice big spoonful of the stew and drop it in. And this is going to be a 2-spoon meal. Make sure I get a bunch of the meat and other stuff in there. Perfect. That goes down there. Wipe. Yeah. Get a better wipe here. There we go. And then I'm going to take some more of this flat leaf parsley that I chopped, and we're just going to give it a little rain. And if you wanted to, you could put just a little rosette of parsley down there or on the side. And then I like to do like a jaunty angle with the bowl lid. Or if you're bringing it to the table for presentation, you can see it's like this. But if you wanted to for presentation, you could always serve it with the lid on and let people figure out what's inside themselves. Whichever way works for you will work for you, and either are correct. So that's this meal, and what a great day for it. It did warm up, but it's going to get nice and cold again tonight. So my wife and I are going to enjoy this stew together. This is stuff that it seems like it's really difficult, but it wasn't, was it? You can do this on a weeknight. You can do this on a work night. Give it a try. Let me know how it went. Send me comments. And speaking of comments, I got in the mail the other day. Somebody noticed, one of the viewers noticed that I mentioned during the meatloaf episode that I didn't have frosting knives. Well, now I have a set of frosting knives. They got sent by one of you guys. So it was Spike. Thank you very much, Spike. I will use these to best effect. And thank you again. And for everybody else, please, if you haven't already, like and subscribe and tell your friends about this because this is kind of fun, me cooking for you, and I hope you're having fun cooking with me. Have a wonderful day. I'll talk to you later.